So, 2021, the year of the sea shanty. And I'm from Portsmouth, the home of the Royal Navy. So I thought it would be a fairly honourable thing to do a couple of my songs about ships that I wrote. Now, I grew up in Portsmouth and my parents were both in the Navy, so the sea has been quite a big part of my life. I grew up near the sea. And so that quite informed my first ever solo album. I did a first solo album was called Found Dead on the Shoreline, and it was pretty bleak, and songs about lost souls and shipwrecks and all sorts of things. And very early on in my career, a lot of people called me the sad songs about ships guy. And I grew up with a lot of sea shanties around me, and one of the first songs I actually ever learnt as a kid was "What shall we do with a drunken sailor? What shall we do with a drunken sailor early in the morning?" I'm not going to do all of that. That's not really my thing, but that's a little example. So that was one I grew up with. But I wrote this song back in 1999. I wrote it for a band called Shima that I was in at the time, and it didn't really fit with the band, so I sort of kept it on the sides because I quite like the song, along with a song called In the Face of Adversity. I quite like those two songs, and then when I ended up doing a solo album, which was Found Dead on the Shoreline, those songs appeared on that. And actually this one I'm going to play was the first song I ever really wrote as a solo artist, and it was probably the most popular one in my early days of my set before Mr. Vampire and Broken Bones and Gainesville City Limits and songs like that. The song's called Vessels That Sail in the Night. Waves crash down against the bows, as the winds blow through. A tattered sail, beauty of the ocean's might, as the waves crash down all around. Celestive ornamenty in the harsh northern breeze. I'll sail my ship alone. There's nothing left for me. Mary, I'm calling out your name. Mary, it's late one stormy night. Mary, I'm never coming home. Mary, where ships are sailing the night. Cabin fever's setting in. Oil in the lamp is running out. Been left years before. Now all I hear hollow owls. Celestive ornamenty in the harsh northern breeze. I'll sail my ship alone. there's nothing left for me. Mary, I'm calling out your name. Mary, it's late one stormy night. Mary, I'm never coming home. Mary, we're ships that sail. Mary, we're ships that sail in the night. Ships that sail in the night. All right. So yes, for a long time then, after being called the guy with the sad songs about ships, I didn't write any songs about ships because it sort of became a bit of a stigma, and I was like, yeah, I'll write about vampires and three-legged dogs and whiskey and being in a hotel in Gainesville. And then I thought, recently I just started writing some new stuff, and I previewed this on the Cult DIY live stream the other day. And this is a brand new song. It's still a sort of work in progress a little bit, but it's called They Built Ships That Sank. And it was partly inspired by the Mary Rose. So in Portsmouth we grew up with the Mary Rose, the Warrior and the Victory. And the Mary Rose sank actually in Portsmouth Harbour, and when I was about 5, 6 years old, I watched it being raised from the seabed. And it was drizzly rain all day, and I moaned all day because I was a moany child. And I was really unimpressed when this just bits of rotting wood got pulled up, because I thought a whole galleon was going to come up, and that was what we were waiting for. I always thought that the Mary Rose, obviously I clearly didn't listen in history class, because I always thought the Mary Rose sank because it didn't even make its maiden voyage, but actually it did. It made some voyages, and it was probably one of the most armed battleships, but it, because of the winds and being attacked by, I think, the Spanish. I'm not a history buff, so it might be wrong. I think it was the Spanish who were invading in the Battle of the Solent. It actually capsized then, and that's why it went to the bottom of Portsmouth Harbour. And because it was so heavy, it got dragged straight down, and they didn't recover it until, I think it was like 1982, I think, 81 or 82. Anyway, as I say, I'm not very good with history, but yeah, they. I always assumed that it just like sank on its maiden voyage, but actually no, it didn't. It was the only ship to sink in the Battle of the Solent, and the British won, and King Henry VIII persevered on that one. But yeah, the Mary Rose, which was his flagship, sank to the bottom of the sea. So this song kind of was inspired by that, but then it's also kind of inspired by ships going and sinking, because it's called They Built Ships That Sank and Went Into an Early Grave, and hopefully this will be on my album Take. They built ships that sank and went into an early grave. Yeah, they built ships that sank and went into an early grave. Heading out upon the mighty ocean, with adventure and spirit in their heart. Little did they know a storm was brewing. The wind it howled, the waves tore them apart. 'Cause they built ships that sank and went into an early grave. Yeah, they built ships that sank and went into an early grave. Setting out upon the seven seas, they daily left the harbor when they were dragged to the bottom by their arrogance and their own weight. 'Cause they built ships that sank and went into an early grave. Yeah, they built ships that sank and went into an early grave. Those lost souls, those loved ones left behind, the mighty ocean all consuming, lost to the waves at night. 'Cause they built ships that sank and went into an early grave. Yeah, they built ships that sank and went into an early grave. Yeah, they built ships that sank and went into an early grave. Yeah, they built ships that sank and went into an early grave. Thank you.